this is our approach to planning out services that you're going to be offering to clients. So this will apply to practically any kind of service business out there. This particular example is set up as part of a treatment program for a spa. And so the programming in here, obviously everything in green is a data entry field. And we'll come back to this summary and programming, but the way that it works for individual services, in this particular case, it's a series of treatments that the spa is going to offer. And so these are cryogenics, saunas, hyperbaric chamber, light therapy, massage. And so this would apply to any kind of service business, a pool supply or a pool service business, any kind of mobile servicing, any types of services that you provide to clients, whether it's a planning process but it's very, very flexible. And it also does a pretty deep analysis on the services that you're planning on providing. So in this case, we're calculating the session programming and the amount of time that the attendant or teacher or instructor would be spending on these particular services. So this would apply to really any kind of employee that you have fulfilling these services. And the different types of employees, we have a matrix up here of what their title is. This is all fillable. What's their cost per hour? What's the burden rate if they're full-time? And then what is their total cost per hour? So in this programming for a session, some kind of a service session, it's what's the session length? What are you charging for that particular service session? What type of therapist or attendant or instructor or operator, all of those can be programmed into here. And then as far as the session time, this session length is how long the actual service is, but then we have a factor for any prep time before the session, and then any post time that this operator is going to be spending providing that particular service. Then it also factors in during that particular service how much of that therapist's time is needed out of this session time. Some services, the technician needs to be there the entire time. Other times you get them set up and they're not in there for the whole amount of time. And then what it does is it'll calculate what is the total therapist time required during that session, and then it'll tell you what is their idle time during that amount of time. So it'll start telling you what percentage of their time is actually idle to provide these sessions, and are they paid for that idle time or not paid for that idle time. And this idle time that's available, you can have them doing other things inside your operation, so you can really get much more efficiency out of what you're paying your staff. Rather than them sitting around doing nothing, you can use that time to do other things, checking inventory, restocking shelves, whatever it happens to be, cleaning up the office, but you can get more utilization using the idle time. Then it goes into what is that service cost based on per session. This is going to tell you the total therapist cost based on all these time calculations over here and their cost per hour. Then is there a utilities component to providing this particular service? Some things can be pretty energy intensive, and so you can add in a cost per session or cost per service, and then any supplies per session. And then if you have multiple attendees or people in this particular service, and you have a cost per person that you're providing that service to. So then it'll tell you what your what your total direct costs are, what your gross profit is based on what your session or service price is. It tells you what your gross profit percentage is. Then what it does is it's going to calculate what is your 100% capacity, and this is looking up your time that you're open, that your business is open, that gets programmed into this pro forma in another section. Then you're going to program how many of these sessions or service sessions are you going to do every day. And this is going to now start telling you what percent of your 100% capacity is that going to represent. So these become targeted goals of how many of these services you're looking to provide to your clients. And then it'll tell you, basically, what your labor situation is, because labor is going to be your limiting factor on how much of these services you could ultimately provide to your client base. Then based on that scheduling, it's going to take a look at what is the profitability of that particular schedule on a daily basis. Then the next calculations that are done after that is if you have members and a membership module, which is another video that we'll go into. But this would calculate the sale of these particular services to members under a membership scenario. If you're not doing memberships, then you wouldn't use this to calculate once you've sold X number of memberships, what is your remaining capacity for other customers outside of being members or subscriptions. So that's how this particular planner works for a particular type of service where you have a limit to your capacity. Another type of service that's offered by a spa, for example, are classes. Now, classes do have a theoretically 100% capacity. It's based on class size, but really if you have a classroom that can accommodate 40, 50 people, you have really no upper limit constraints necessarily, even though it can be incorporated into this from a scheduling perspective. So this does very similar to what the treatment planner did. It's going to go into all these various different types of classes that you can have. What's the class length? What's the class cost? What type of trainer are you going to have in that class? Then you've got the pre-class and you've got post-class timing, the trainer time. So you're going to see a lot of similarities between this and the treatment approach. And so it'll calculate all of this out. And then a third type of service is one where, in this particular case, it was a sublet studio that the spa was going to have in their facility that they would rent to a service provider that they would then get a share of those profits. And so each of these three, this one's a little bit different because it'll actually run out here again based on a start month of what these revenues are, that it will project on a monthly basis what that revenue is going to be. So in all of these cases, the treatments and the classes, the way those revenues work is up in this area. This summarizes the results from down here based on what you programmed and your scheduling of how many services you're shooting for to represent basically a 100% capacity of what your business could produce. Now, no businesses get to 100% of their capacity, and if they do, it's really an indicator that they built their infrastructure too small for the amount of business that they could take in. But typically, you're going to be looking at some percentage of your 100% capacity. And so the way we represent that in an income and expense statement is here's the treatment section, here's the classes section, and based on, in this particular case, because they were selling memberships, using our membership and package designer plugins. But what that did was, based on the sale of X number of memberships, there was a remaining amount of service capacity inside the organization. So in this particular case, it's taking of that remaining capacity, how much of it is being sold. And so on a percentage basis, it's just going to look up, okay, so this is backing out of the 100% capacity, how much is left, and then this percentage of that remaining capacity would equate to these revenues for classes and treatments. So that's how our service planner works and integrates with income and expense, and the 3 different types of services that can be modeled out. Thanks for watching.